Here's your news for May 1st, 2020. Here are some headlines for today. WWE releases third-generation superstar. Vince McMahon's right hand sells almost $1.5 million of WWE stock. Another WWE star has pulled out of TV tapings. Huge names announced for FS1 backstage. WWE attempting to screw with the Revival's money. Andrade puts an end to the rumors. Nia Jax comments on her injuries. We are starting today with another WWE release as the company has cut ties with Curtis Axel. The release of the former Intercontinental and Tag Team Champion was broken on Twitter today, and while the WWE hasn't given an explanation why he was cut, it's likely due to the company's cost-cutting measures. Prior to his release, the third-generation star was with WWE since 2008, and given his talent and the ongoing global situation, it'll be interesting to see what becomes of the former WWE superstar. Speaking of WWE, we've got some news from backstage next, as executives Kevin Dunn and Bradley Bloom have sold some of their stock. According to SEC filings, Dunn, who joined the WWE in the 70s and was appointed executive producer in 1993, sold 33,000 shares at $46.46 each, coming to a total of $1,532,850 worth of stock, though he still owns over 125,000 shares. Bloom, who was appointed executive vice president in 2006, sold 15,358 shares at $45.32 each, earning him $741,835 and retaining over 3,000 shares. We are taking a look at SmackDown now as Sami Zayn didn't appear on last week's show, and now we may know why. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer wrote that Zayn was originally scheduled to be a part of the show, but opted not to due to the ongoing global situation. It's been reported that WWE have said that nobody has to attend shows if they don't want to, though there is no word on who else might have opted to skip the show. It's worth noting that WWE have been working with a skeleton crew recently, and that was very noticeable this week, where some superstars wrestled twice in one night. Zayn isn't the only star who's opted not to compete, as Wrestling News has said that WWE management doesn't have any idea when Roman Reigns may be back, with some believing that he won't be back until a vaccine is developed, likely to be next year at the earliest. Though fans won't be seeing the big dog live for quite some time, fans will get the chance to see plenty of Reigns in WWE's programming block on FS1. These blocks of programming air prior to WWE Backstage on FS1, and this Tuesday, Reigns, alongside Edge, Brock Lesnar, and Ric Flair will all get their own specials from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. before Backstage. Both Edge and Roman's episodes will look at their best WrestleMania matches, including their respective battles with The Undertaker, whilst Flair's shocking 1992 Royal Rumble victory will be just one of the matches covered in his special. WWE clearly has a lot of highly produced documentaries they can send to FS1, and while they'll run out of content eventually, it doesn't look like that'll happen for a very long time. Speaking of absent superstars, Rob Gronkowski is still the WWE 24/7 champion, and the recently unretired NFL star was proud to show off his title this week. After appearing on this season of Fox's The Masked Singer, where he was the White Tiger, Gronk recently gave a second performance by doing the floss and Macarena while showing off his championship. Gronkowski has held the title since Night 2 of WrestleMania, and though we don't know when he'll return to WWE TV, he will remain champion despite his return to the NFL, where he'll be joining Tom Brady for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. From one new star of WWE to some more now, as NXT lost to AEW in the ratings yet again, despite multiple Gold Brand superstars getting injured for their efforts. It's now being reported that Matt Riddle is dealing with a bruised sternum after he and Timothy Thatcher were attacked by Imperium, and his condition is being monitored. Damian Priest also reportedly suffered a bruised rib during his match against Keith Lee, with his condition being listed as day-to-day. Kacy Catanzaro also suffered an injury after her loss to Candice LeRae, as the latter locked in the Gargano escape, causing Catanzaro to suffer a strained neck, but will no doubt be looking for revenge when she can return to the ring. Speaking of injuries, one woman who's been known to cause quite a few injuries over the years is Nia Jax. Recently receiving backlash for being too rough with Kairi Sane, Jax also broke Becky Lynch's face shortly before the Survivor Series in 2018. And while this ruined Lynch's pay-per-view plans, it helped solidify the man's reputation as one tough SOB. On Twitter recently, Jax poked some fun at her reputation with some, uploading an altered skull and crossbones with her face and the words "Danger, stay away" included. Jax recently used the botched spot with Kairi Sane to threaten Ronda Rousey, who also received backlash after comments about ungrateful fans and wrestling being fake. And time will tell whether the baddest woman on the planet has an answer to the irresistible force. We've got some huge news coming from WWE next, as the company could see the return of crowds in the coming weeks. After the company was deemed an essential business by Governor Ron DeSantis, the company has hosted shows without audiences in Florida, though DeSantis announced this week that the Sunshine State will be easing some of its lockdown measures, starting with the reopening of shops and restaurants. In a press conference, DeSantis said that socially distanced fans would be able to attend sports events, but only if the number of cases trend downward, saying, "You're not going to have everyone packed in, but man, in 90-degree weather in the state of Florida, if you're out there and someone is 10 feet away from you and you want to watch a ball game or something, you may be able to do that." Speaking specifically about WWE, DeSantis commented on how not hosting WrestleMania 36 in Tampa cost the state hundreds of millions of dollars, and added, "I want to keep that good relationship. I want them to invest in Florida. There's going to be a lot of good stuff going on, but I don't think we're probably ready to have fans. But I do think if the trends are good, I think as you get into June, July, I think there's a window to have some fans." DeSantis closed his comments by saying, "This is something that we're going to have to do, and we're going to be driven by the facts, driven by the data." Of course, this is an unprecedented time, and plans could easily change, especially as just because events may be open, that doesn't necessarily mean fans will be wanting to go to them until this situation is well and truly over. We're going back in time to 2007-2008, as when Vince McMahon's illegitimate son was revealed, fans were left disappointed when it turned out to be Hornswoggle. It wasn't long after that it was revealed that Finlay was Hornswoggle's dad all along, but before that, McMahon met his alleged son in a steel cage on the February 18, 2008 edition of Raw to teach him some tough love. Though Swoggle's suffering storyline injuries, including bleeding of the brain and spinal trauma, was rough, it could have been worse, as former WWE writer Brian Gewirtz recently stumbled on a pitch by an unnamed writer that would have seen the boss kill off his so-called son. If it had been used, the story would have seen McMahon stuff Swoggle in a pillowcase before throwing him off a bridge from a limousine. And while the writers said they realized this angle would be unlikely to be used, it certainly would have made for some interesting TV. One person who certainly liked the idea is Hall of Fame-elect JBL, who helped partake in the February 18th Raw beatdown and asked if they could still kill off Swoggle in 2020. Fortunately for Swoggle, he remains alive and well as making a cameo appearance on AEW Dynamite recently during the Bubbly Bunch, also posted a video for Dolph Ziggler to help the show off win back Mandy Rose. Speaking of AEW, one man who has done big things with the company is Chris Jericho, and the former AEW World Champion has certainly been kept busy during the current crowdless editions of Dynamite. In addition to working as in-ring talent, Jericho recently sat down with Tony Schiavone for the 7 hours that AEW recorded content from QT Marshall's gym in Norcross, Georgia, which greatly impressed Tony Khan. According to PW Insider, Jericho didn't have much time to prepare for this huge task. As they reported, Chris Jericho has also gotten a ton of praise for all his work on commentary, which he did off the top of his head with less than 24 hours notice that he'd be needed in the role, and with putting together the vignettes for the Inner Circle. Even after decades in wrestling, Jericho is showing that he can adapt to any situation, as he's certainly earned the moniker of the best in the world at what he does. We've got some more news from Jericho next, as fans all know that he was a part of WCW, and that company was part of some questionable decisions. For their toys, all WCW action figures were labeled with specific UPC barcodes, with royalty checks determined by how many figures a wrestler sold, which interestingly led to some huge paychecks for Sting and Hulk Hogan. While speaking on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, Y2J spoke about when he realized how his money wasn't going to his own pockets. He said, "When I was in WCW, that was my first action figure. The first one was a set with Dean Malenko. My girlfriend at the time found one and bought it at Walmart or wherever. On the receipt, it didn't say Malenko Jericho, it said Hogan Sting. That's when I realized every single action figure sold at that time, maybe not across the world, but in that store, was attributed to Hogan. I was told that's impossible, but I have the receipt." As if it wasn't bad enough that two of the highest paid stars in WCW were getting Jericho's money, Y2J went on to say, "I got a royalty check from WCW once for $0.00 in a FedEx." Fortunately now, Jericho is getting plenty of royalty checks, and while some may be larger than others, we doubt he's getting FedExed any $0 checks anymore. We're sticking with AEW now, as commentator Jim Ross called plenty of John Cena matches during his WWE tenure, and is now making the argument that the 16-time world champion is one of the company's greatest ever superstars. Speaking on his Grillin' JR podcast, JR praised Cena's work ethic and his work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And after a decade or so of Big Match John being the guy in WWE, it's hard to argue that he's earned a spot on the company's Mount Rushmore. Speaking of Cena, the 16-time world champion has a big day ahead of him today, as he will kick off an event to honor America's class of 2020 during these difficult times. Working as part of the Oh the Places You'll Go virtual graduation celebration, Cena's keynote will include a reading from Dr. Seuss and will include his own words of wisdom to graduating seniors. His reading will be available on a page dedicated to the celebration, where additional readings and remarks will be covered this month. And John won't be the only star today, as he'll be joined by NASA astronaut Scott Kelly, who set the record for longest American spaceflight at 340 days. The former WWE champion hasn't been seen since he lost to The Fiend at WrestleMania 36, and after a video where Cena spoke about 40 years of Make-A-Wish and granting over 650 wishes, it's good to see the charitable Cena giving back during these worrying times. From one world champion to another now, as Universal Champion Braun Strowman has showed off his generous side this week. Ahead of his Universal title match against The Fiend, Strowman teamed with two local Orlando restaurants to help provide meals as a thank you to the frontline workers during this difficult time. On social media, Strowman revealed that he had partnered with Beefy King and Jimmy Hula's to say thank you to the Orlando health heroes, and this thanks came in the form of 1,000 meals that were handed out to those risking it all to help the most vulnerable. In these unprecedented times, frontline workers need all the thanks they can get, and it's good to see the Monster Among Men is making sure these heroes are keeping well fed during this situation. Back to WWE now, and Andrade has been doing a lot of big things in WWE, but there's always room for the United States Champion. According to Fightful, El Idolo asked Vince McMahon what he could do to improve his position, and was told to learn English, something his fiancée Charlotte Flair has been helping him with. Now though, Andrade is refuting this story, as a translated report from Spanish to English from Super Luchas reads, "In the morning of this day, we informed them about a report by the journalist Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, who assured that Mr. Vince McMahon had recently met with Andrade, when the Mexican allegedly went to speak to him along with his fiancée Charlotte Flair, to ask McMahon to put him in a top position on the company poster. However, Andrade, faithful reader of us and friend of the house, denied the news given by Ross Sapp. Andrade has certainly been in a much better position recently, as the Empty Performance Center shows have heavily featured the gang of heels led by Zelina Vega. Fans will have to wait and see what's next for El Idolo, as while he's getting better in English, it doesn't seem to be because Vince McMahon told him to.